All right. Welcome to Classroom to Code. I'm Nadia.
And I'm Noni.
We are two teacher moms in two different countries who somehow found ourselves building apps, learning AI, joining a Replit build-a-thon, and realizing that maybe we were never as far from tech as we thought.
Because before we ever called ourselves builders, we were teachers. We were already adapting, troubleshooting, differentiating, testing, fixing, and trying again.
This podcast is about what happens when teachers stop waiting for someone else to build the thing that they need and start asking, can I make this myself?
We'll talk about the messy parts, the scary parts, and the what am I even doing parts. And the moments where something finally works and you think, wait, I actually built that?
We'll talk about AI literacy, education, app building, design mistakes, accidental wins, motherhood, and what it really looks like to go from an idea in your head to something real.
And if you're listening and thinking, I'm not technical enough, I'm too late, or people like me don't build things like this, then honestly, this is the show for you.
Because we thought that too.
And we were wrong.
Welcome to Classroom to Code.
We're so glad you're here.
Welcome to episode 2. Today we're going to talk about what we've built on Replit as teachers and moms.
And we're going to have a look at how I accidentally made money on Replit.
So thank you for being here. In our last episode, we talked about how we two teachers found our way into building and how we met through the Replit community. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the platform that made all that possible, the different apps we have shipped in our products, and the story that we're saving for our end about accidental revenue. So first, what is Replit and what did we build on it?
Well, Replit is not just a code editor, it's an agentic code platform that writes, debugs, and deploys with you in real time. So it's like a partner who helps you build an app just by you telling it a few words. It's an AI pair programming that ships real apps. Deployed in seconds, not hours. It only takes a few words to get it to get going, and it's for built for builders, not for engineers. Sometimes people get a bit worried thinking about the tech side. It can just start with a few words, a prompt. So for example, mine started with a prompt: build a math game my year 6 classes will actually want to play. And it builds the basic app, and then you can add so many features that you want, and take it prompt at a time.
Yeah, so Replit is really interesting because unlike a lot of other platforms, you really don't need a background in code at all. I was talking to one of my friends yesterday who does have some tech background, and he said to me, I'm trying to craft this prompt for Replit, and I looked at his prompt and he had something in there about using JavaScript and Tailwind. And I said, no, 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 you back up. Talk like you're talking to somebody who already knows how to develop and describe
Mhm.
your idea. So in that way, Replit's really unique.
Yeah, and it's just taking a few words, ideas in your head, and making it into a real app. Um, just as easy as that by using a couple of words, ideas to app so quick.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's unique even in the vibe coding space, if you've heard that term before. And it really just wants to hear your idea and then it will help you go from the idea to an actual product. All right. So
So let's start off with, sorry, let's start off with your apps. Let's have a look at them.
yeah, yeah. So I've built quite a few things on Replit. I've built things outside of Replit as well. As I mentioned before, I won the 10-year build-a-thon. And the app that I built with that was Modal Literacy, which is a reading app for deaf and hard of hearing students or students who might need accommodations or who are on IEPs. I'll show you a little bit about the different apps that I've made, but some of the big ones that I've made with Replit are also a parent app that I'm hoping to release this month, which is to guide parents who just got a diagnosis or a refer on a newborn hearing screening and they don't know what to do or where to start. That's Modal Parent. And then I've also built out 3D games for my students that they can participate in. And I will go into more detail about that in a later episode.
And that's really cool because they're like really niche apps, ideas that you can that you've thought of and you've had experiences with, and you've been able to build it out into something real?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think one of the coolest things about building with Replit is you get to use your domain expertise. So if you are, a specialist in anything or you have a special interest in something, you don't have to know how to code to build something for a problem that you have or are trying to solve. And so as a teacher of the deaf, I saw problems on the level of students, on the level of parents, other teachers, and whenever I get an idea, I turn it into a product pretty quickly with Replit. Now Replit, initially I used to do it on my own manually. And now I am building out a couple apps, within days, with Replit as my tool. So I wanted to go through really quickly the products that I offer and what I used to make them. So the whole goal of modal education is accessible learning. And with that, I'm a researcher. I got my doctorate. So I always want everything to be research backed and accessible for my students. And Replit makes it really easy to make that. A couple of the products that I have launched using vibe coding, modal itinerant is a big one. That one is for teachers who need an operating system to manage their caseload, and specifically teachers of the deaf who are traveling from school to school, and they want to track their IEPs and things like that. That is live. That is post revenue, and it's actually a pretty useful tool that I built out. It went from idea to app in a day, and then I added features for a
Wow.
couple of days. Yeah. And I was able to release it within 2 weeks of the idea
That's
coming
so
to my
cool.
head. Um,
Yeah.
this one is a report creator for evaluations for teachers. I'm working on a professional development academy. This is that modal parent app that guides parents through having a child with hearing loss. Modal literacy is the one that I made for the Replit Build-a-thon that is all about learning how to read for students who need accommodations. And a couple other ones I'm pairing with people to bring in a speech language pathology app and an audiology app. And also, I have a video game that is one of two that uses 3D assets and that I use with my students to teach them skills for their learning and for their classroom setting.
That's so cool. And I think in a later episode, we'll be having a look at what 3D assets are and how to put them into games as well.
Absolutely. And I think you've done some game building yourself, right?
Yeah, few games here and there.
That's awesome. Yeah, the ability to gamify using Replit is something that I didn't know was could be made so easy and could be done so quickly. In the past, anything I've built, either I'm stuck with the 2D or limited on a whole lot of things. But with Replit, you can just put your 3D assets in and create something that you would think that a professional game developer had made. So it's pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, really cool. And that's the cool thing about Replit is that you can put any kind of asset in there, your own personal things. Like, so moving on to my apps, I put in my panda logo, my bamboo brain logo, which is a an educational brand that I wanted to build for a while, and I didn't know where to start until I came across Replit. And this is a cool thing about Replit is that you showed so many apps that you've made, and it only took, so people don't understand that this, so people who didn't code, don't code, and have never coded, don't realize that making these apps can take weeks or months.
Mhm.
um, and then there's a long process, but we've been able to make a few apps within hours, days, and then have them shipped onto the app store. So, coming to my first app, I made a stats revision app. So here in the UK, we have the SAT tests. I think in America you guys have it, but they're for like young adults. Here we
Mhm.
have them in the UK for children who are ready to move on to high school. We do like SATs tests, and there wasn't an app around um, for children to do those tests. Because as much as we don't want, I've said this before, we don't want children on their devices, but they are. They rather look at the screen than a piece of paper. So that gave me the idea for this app, and I'd like it to be visually interesting for children. Like maybe adults find it more interesting to be a bit more, maybe a bit plainer, maybe, I don't know.
Mhm.
But I know children engage with colors and images, vibrancy. So this app, I I built this in a few days, a few hours. The
Wow.
basic app was built out in a few hours, and then I added to it and released it on the App Store quite quickly. And I got some feedback on it, and then I worked on it to improve it slowly over time, update it. And then my Bamboo Brain times tables app. This was more for children to practice their multiplications and times tables through like 6 fun games where they collect coins and then unlock really cool characters, forest spirit characters. And what's cool about this is that the forest spirit characters were helped designed by the students in my class. So they gave me ideas for the names and what these forest spirits should look like. And I just told Replit what I wanted it to look like, and it built it out for me. It's really cool.
Question. What age group do you teach?
I teach 7-year-olds to 8-year-olds.
Oh, okay. That's such a
Yeah.
fun age. I'm raising
Yeah.
one of those right now in my house, and they're so curious and their ideas are so creative. And I love that as a
Mhm.
teacher, you can just take their ideas and make them real. And what's really
Yeah.
cool is how empowering that is for your students. They probably think it's so
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah, they think it's really cool. They think I'm such a cool teacher. And that's what gets them engaged in these apps as well. Like knowing that their teacher made it or a teacher in their school made it, it makes them want to go in it even more, which is it's good for their learning.
Yeah, something interesting is that representation piece also. When I made my first app, we talked about how we do it so quickly now. For context, I made my first app in 2019 and it took me a year, like a literal year, 11 months actually, to launch. And that wasn't even to the App Store yet. It took me 3 years after that to get on the App Store. Might have been a little slower than it needed to be, but it was because I was doing a lot of things and the technology wasn't there yet. But I always think I had one student who loved tamales and he was extremely language deprived. And I created an animation in the app with his name, and I said he ate 10 tamales, and or his mom made 10 tamales and he ate four, something like that, right? How many are left? And the excitement with which the kids receive any kind of representation. It's especially true for
Mhm.
deaf kids, but kids in general, seeing their name or seeing maybe it's not their name, maybe it's something that they designed. Seeing it come to life is something I think that's so cool about being a kid these days.
Yeah, it's so exciting for them, and it's so much more easy to do now than it was. Like you said, it took you such a while to get onto App Store. It's nothing like that now. It's so much more quicker and such like an easier process now.
Yeah.
Um, so moving on to the third app, I do have other apps in the making, but these are the ones that I'm really concentrating on. The times tables one and the sats one are both up on the App Store. The next one I'm making right now is called My Zone. It's really for children with special needs. This is a problem that we see a lot in maybe all over the world, but right now in the UK educational system, every year there's more and more neurodiverse children, and teachers have to put support in place for them, and sometimes they don't get a diagnosis, or they don't even need a diagnosis,
Hmm.
or they can't. It's impossible to give them one for months or years. And teachers need tools, and parents need tools to be able to support their learning and support their sensory any sensory issues that they might have. So this is a tool that I'm making that will put all those things into one app. um, Parents will be able to, and teachers will be able to um, select what the support the child needs, and the app gives it tools that they can use in the classroom and at home.
That's amazing. And I love that you're targeting, special needs as well. What I have been talking to a lot of people about as a special educator myself is that when you build for students who are in the margins, so in my case, deaf students and whatnot, you're actually helping a lot of other students by giving accommodations that weren't already necessarily thought of. So it's not just, special needs children that will benefit, they will benefit, but
Mhm.
also other kids, right, who may not, like you said, have, a diagnosis or even know that there's something going on, or it's part of being a kid. It's the regular experience, and you want to have a safe space for that. I love that you're targeting all these different cohorts of children and different needs that they have.
Yeah, and it's great. This is the great thing about Replit, is that the person who has a problem and they're facing a problem daily, they can easily make, if the solution is through software, they can easily make it on Replit. the person with the problem will have the best solution.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I wanted to talk about with Bamboo Brain, because I have that downloaded on my phone and I've played it. And it's funny because it made me realize that I need to review my times tables. When your child is beating you, it's not
Yeah.
great. But I love how you have, it's just so tactile. Like you are swiping the answers and you have to catch them
Yeah.
and whatnot. How did you prompt Replit for that? Can I ask? Or like what did you tell it to do?
So one of this particular game, the one that's on the screen, this is called a Number Ninja. This was inspired by the game Fruit Ninja,
Yeah.
but more learning wise. So I had asked it to include haptics and a sword slicing motion, which it did. It did in the first prompt straight away. For the
Wow.
sound, it added a sound which was good, but I preferred a different one. So I had imported a different sound of a sword going shling, and
I love it.
it put it in, and it did it really well.
I
It
love
just
it. I
like
love
it just and
how
it came together so well just by the prompt and the sound. It just came together the first time.
Yeah, I know you designed for kids with the colors and the immersion and all of that, but I love it as an adult. Like I find myself doing things with it just because you've gamified it so beautifully and the characters and the brand is so strong. That's awesome. Yeah, I have not tried your Sats one just because I think being an American, it just wasn't, something I was aware of.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super cool. The way that you built that. I thought it was really creative.
And the thing with the My Zone one is for children who need a sensory kind of play, a sensory tool. You can add in haptics and vibrations that they need for their sensory stimulation. And there's like a bubble popping game where they pop the
Oh
bubble, you can
yeah.
hear the sound of the bubble, and then you actually feel the phone vibrate slightly every time it pops. And that's a really good tool for some children who need that sensory motion.
That's amazing. Actually, I have not done haptics on my apps, but that might be such a great addition, especially the ones that are directly for students. And what are the possibilities with other populations, right? We talked about neurodivergence, but even like, one thing I've thought about is low vision and blindness. How do we design for that? How do we make sure that we're really thinking about everyone in the margins. And the haptics
Mhm.
are just such a beautiful piece of adding that sensory
Yeah.
aspect. That's awesome.
Yeah, and they also come through on other apps without you realizing. You enjoy the app more because of that feeling, without even pinpointing that that's why it is.
Yeah, it's super cool. And I actually had a friend ask me if we can do haptics with Replit, and I said I believe so. The way that I work with Replit is I assume it can't, or I assume that it can until it
Mhm.
tells me that it can't. So I
Yeah,
assume that it can do haptics, and if it doesn't, then it will find me a workaround, right? So um, that I don't feel that way about every single platform I've used, but with Replit, it will either do it for you, do what you've asked, or it will find a way to get as close as possible. Is that your experience too?
yeah, definitely. Because and especially whenever I've asked it to do something and it can't, after a few days, it can because they've updated or upgraded Replit or added a new integration, and then it can do more and more. I feel like it learns from what it can't do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I've
really
I've
cool.
experienced that also, where there are times that um I felt like I hit a wall and then I tried again. I either reprompted or I waited some time and then it surprises me with what it can do. And I think that's an important thing to
Yeah.
notice about this company and this platform specifically. It's changing so quickly. I feel like every week they announce something new at least
Hmm.
once. And it'll usually
Yeah.
be something super powerful or something, I'm just like, these people, they must not sleep or something. As
Yeah.
this is not a stagnant thing. We're talking about Replit right now in mid-June of 2026. And by, the next month, there'll probably be a bunch of other things that have been added that we didn't even know
Yeah.
yet. So
Yeah. Growing every day, new integration every day. It's really cool.
it is. All right, Noni, I want to hear your story. You alluded to this in a conversation we had, and you said something
Yes.
about how you accidentally made money on the App
Yeah.
Store. One of the things that I need is to figure out how to get on the App Store and monetize. That's definitely
Mhm.
your strength, and so I was hoping you could share the story.
Yeah, funny story because I don't tell many people this, but it's like because it makes me sound like a rookie because I was at that time. But
Mhm.
now I'm pretty I'm used to getting on the App Store. I know how it works. But it was the first time I put an app onto the App Store. So basically what happened is I wanted to monetize the app somehow, but I didn't want to put too much burden. So what I started off with doing was making the app, and I'm talking about my SATs app here. I made the app, I integrated Google Ads into it. So I thought I'll have ads on it. And then I put it onto the App Store. Got rejected a couple of times, but I worked my way around it, figured out how to get it back onto the App Store. And when it's finally on, it kicked off really well. I blasted it on social media, got lots of downloads. One night I went to sleep and it was 395 downloads. Woke up the next morning, it was 1,400 downloads, and I was like, "How really? How is
Wow.
this happening?" And then it slowed down. I was getting downloads, lots of downloads, but it slowed down. So I was getting like 200 downloads every day, and then suddenly it started to slow down, and I was like, "Huh, why is it doing that?"
Yeah.
So what I had done without realizing was I had my in-app purchase. I had a remove ads in-app purchase. So people had the option of removing the ads by paying 199.
Mm.
Um, and in the App Store, I had, in fact, I think one day I should show a screenshot of what this looks like. But in the App Store, I had gone to price schedule and I thought, this probably means when my in-app purchase starts. And I typed in 199. That's my in-app purchase. That's going to start in a few days. And then I realized my husband called me one day and he one of his friends had downloaded the app and he was like, I thought your app was free. And I was like, yeah, it is. And, and he checked. And then I checked and I checked my Apple account and I was like, why is Apple giving me $50? And then I even messaged Apple and I was like, why are you guys giving me money?
Oh, you're so you're
I
so funny.
realized
That's
later, yeah,
oh my goodness.
I realized later I scheduled the pricing for it to not be a free app anymore. It's supposed to be a paid app. And then I quickly to remove the ads. I was like, okay, it's a paid app, so I can't go back to making it free. So I quickly went into my app, updated it by removing the ads, and removing that in-app purchase for the ads. And then it's just now a paid app with no ads or anything in it. But quite successfully, it got about 2,000 downloads.
Wow.
It got to number 12 on the educational app store. Apparently, it got to number 4, but I never got a screenshot of that, so I can't claim it.
Oh.
Um, yeah, so and it's like a more of a seasonal app. So
Hmm.
when it's around the time for children where they start in year 6 or when they're about to give their tests around I think I would say around February, March, April, May, around that time. Because the exams are mid-May. So I think it's gonna do well in the next season as well because there's no other app similar to that.
Yeah, I think that is so, first of all, that's hilarious that you didn't know and that you were surprised and that you called Apple like it was some kind of mistake. I
Yeah,
mean,
I was
that
like, why
tells
are you giving
you
me money?
yeah, like this is a mistake. Like, just take it. No, that is awesome. And how incredibly validating, right? As teachers,
Mhm.
especially in the States, and I'm assuming that this is kind of a universal thing, that we're not necessarily the highest earners as it is. We do a lot of like invisible labor, right? We're doing a lot of planning, we're doing whatever, and we're not able to monetize all the things that we're doing, but we do it because we see the outcomes with our students,
Mhm.
and we're going to do what the students need. But with being able to develop and to release out into the public, it's never been easier, right? And the impact that we have is so wonderful on the people that we're trying to reach, but also with monetization, there is a very real ability to change your financial reality with your knowledge set, with your expertise.
Yeah, and when I first put the app, when I got started to get downloads, I didn't actually expect that I was gonna get downloads. I thought I might get one or two, and that was through family and friends. The shock that you see that you're actually getting downloads on something that you've built, and it didn't take that long. There was iterating and then changing it how you wanted it, exactly how you want specifically. But to see that you're getting so many downloads, it's amazing. It's shocking actually, and it's a problem that you're trying to solve, which is, I think, is just fantastic that you're able to do that now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can say a little bit as a founder that, when I never expected to be anything, different from somebody who's in the classroom. And I didn't know that I was going to go down this route. But when I made my first, sale, and it was actually my math practice application back in 2020. And I just remember thinking, wow, I've created something that's going to benefit people. And in turn, it does have benefit, first of all, that the money can help you create more, but also, a very real possibility of this being what you do as your job as well. You're now an
Yeah.
app developer and you're using what you love and you're still impacting, you're impacting the kids in your classroom if you want to continue teaching. I think obviously both of us still have students of our own, but you also now are able to impact kids all around, wherever you're trying to reach them. For you, it was the UK. For me, my app had American Sign Language and math practice with American Sign Language. I did actually sign everything myself with a green screen. Again, the technology wasn't where it is today. And now knowing that, in 37 states, people are using that, and
So
something that,
cool.
yeah, something that was an idea. And it's,
Yeah.
stories that come from the users. Have you talked to any of your users?
Yeah, and yeah, because and then they give feedback as well, which is a great thing. You release your app to these people, and then they use it and they give you feedback on things that you can improve on that you might not see because you're the builder, and then the user uses it. And even if I use it myself, there may be things that I don't realize I can add in to improve it. Users give feedback to you, and it's just great to get that feedback because then you can act on it because the user's telling you a real problem that can be solved as well, which is great. And I don't know if this happens for you, but I feel like since Replit, I feel like every time I come across a problem in the classroom, I'm like, I can make a solution for that.
I can tell you that it's becoming a problem how much I just feel like I can solve every problem.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is
Mm-hmm.
that I honestly, I'll give you an example. Like I do it in the classroom as well. Actually, I have a student who is obsessed with geography, but very low language. So my next app for modal education is going to be a geography app.
That's so
And
awesome.
yeah, I'm very excited about that. Hopefully, I'll talk about that on a later episode.
Yeah.
But also outside of my classroom, I could talk about it as a parent. I've made apps for my daughter. I've made apps for my husband. I have made apps for myself for my own, management of things. And so once you start with a product like Replit, or once you start vibe coding and building, you start to realize, hey, I can actually build problems or build solutions to the problems that I have.
Problems, yeah.
Yeah, so let's not build problems. Um, I would, anything that I see, and that's where I tell people to start with their building too. I'm like, what's the problem? What's your pain point? And
Mm-hmm.
if you think of yourself as the ideal user, or if it's somebody in your family or a kid in your classroom, then you can test it and say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
this works. This is what works well. This is what doesn't. And I've talked to so many users over the last 6 years for Modal Math, which is the math app, and now with Modal Literacy, my Replit app, and all of that feedback has just made the product better and better, in ways that I never could have imagined. So it's extremely, rewarding. Obviously, you talked about the financial piece of it, but even just seeing the collaboration of people coming
Yeah.
together and using and helping you make the solution better, and you
Yeah.
genuinely helping them, which I think is a big thing for teachers and moms.
Yeah, really great. And the thing is about being a teacher is that you've got real-time users, and especially when it's like the children in your class, I'm speaking from my experience, they give you real feedback. I mean, real, like
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brutal
no
sometimes.
filter. That's what I was looking for. No filter feedback, which is great. Sometimes you need that from, especially from children who are going to use the app. So when they give you that feedback with no filter, then you know what to work on. And then also
Absolutely.
the other thing that I wanted to say was that like some people, a lot of people think they hear coding, and then they hear AI, but it's just, and they think that like I've got a problem, but how am I gonna go about it? One thing I would say is do what I did. Go head first, dive in, do a
Yeah.
prompt, start with a prompt, start with a few words and see where it takes you. Because that's what I did. When I saw back in the beginning of the year, January, February time, when I saw the mobile build-a-thon um ad, I think it was an ad. Um, I thought, hey, what the heck? Might as well try it. What am I gonna lose? So I went in and I gave it a prompt, and the first initial app it came up with was so amazing. And this was back when it was Agent 3. Now we have Agent 4, which is so much more powerful. But just that initial prompt, and I was shocked with what it came up with. Um, and I just took it from there. So
Yeah.
I would say I would advise everyone to just like go ahead and give an initial prompt and see where it takes you. If you've got a problem, it'll come up with the solution.
Right. So I think that is one of the biggest things that I've learned as a lesson too, just being a business person, being, even being a mom and a teacher, you have to try something
Mm-hmm.
and see if it works and then, try again, right? It's a lot of
Yeah.
trial and error. And don't be afraid for something not to work. All it's going to do is make you better. So many times I've talked to either founders, people with ideas, and they've said, okay, I want to do this, but how? And they get caught up on the how. And I will tell
Mm-hmm.
you, in 2019, when I started my business, I had a vision and I had no idea how. And even to the point where 3 months into making my business, I didn't know how I was going to monetize it. But you
Mm-hmm.
solve things as your path unfolds, right?
Yeah.
So when I was, starting with Replit, I was confused, to be honest. I didn't know what vibe coding was. Actually, I was vibe coding for a while before I had even heard that term.
Yeah.
So I didn't know, and I just started talking to it. And I
Yeah.
wasn't sure, and the truth is that the how varies as well. I don't think any two users of a software or platform are using it exactly the same way. I mean, you and I are the perfect example of that, right? We both build
Mhm.
teaching apps, but we have different things that we're into and that we emphasize or focus on. You are amazing at getting things out there into the world. I love that you use haptics, how visual and like experiential and well designed your apps are. I'm a researcher. My big thing is, is it compliant for accessibility? Does it have what standards is it aligned with? This and that. And both of those things are great, right? And we can learn from each other as builders, but I wouldn't say that we have the same how for how we build,
Yeah.
right?
What do you mean you don't have the same how?
Like the way that we do it is different. So the way that we go about it, if we open Replit and we start prompting, you and
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the way that we do it would look exactly the same, is what
Yeah,
I.
probably not. And you can be as formal or informal as you want with Replit. So I don't know how you do, but I'm very informal with Replit. I don't worry about the techie language because I don't know so many technical terms. So I don't know how you do it on that side, but I just go ahead and give it informal instructions like I'm talking to a child. And it
Yeah.
still works out really well. What about you? Do you use technical terms?
Rarely, rarely.
Mm-hmm.
It depends because I am big on, again, compliance and standards, and
Mm-hmm.
what the research says. So sometimes there are technical terms related to that. When it comes to, as far as technical terms related to coding and all that, I would
Yeah.
be out of my element trying to talk
Yeah.
about that because that's not what I do. But most of the time, and I've advised people as well, I'm like, keep it simple. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of why teachers are able to catch on so easily to this is because we're used to simplifying our instructions and our
Yeah.
language and making something understand. And
Yeah.
teachers are builders. Naturally, we are already developing things, in the classroom, but we're also translating, right? So we're learning to talk to agent like it's one of our students,
Yeah.
right? Because if we're assigning a project to a student, we have to put it in terms that it understands. And so I think there's
Mhm.
something, it's an analogy here where you can say, yes, it's like a student, we're teaching it, and then it's creating the output that we want.
Yeah, you're giving your idea and it's building it out. And even when I think along the way, I have picked up a few technical terms which are sometimes things do come up and you don't understand, but you can ask the Replit agent to explain what it means and it does break it down really well. I mean, there's been times when I said I don't understand what that means. explain to me like you explain to a child, and it does it really well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like
Yeah.
they explain like I'm five or whatever. It is great. I've said I don't know what that is. Like
Hmm.
that's been my
Hmm.
response.
Yeah.
And it will explain it. And that's how you learn. So you learn as you go. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of cliches out there, like start before you're ready and things like that. But it's true.
Yeah, it
Don't wait to
is.
feel ready. I've also seen people get stuck in the planning phase of their app without, so you're spending like months planning something and
Yeah.
you're not even sure that it's going to catch on. So it's better to try it and to use it and see and get real feedback. And that's something, that I've learned to get more comfortable with as
Yeah.
a builder.
And that's
Um,
why I keep saying go head first because you could spend so much time planning and then not liking your idea and then changing something again and again, but just go for it.
Yeah, people get stuck on that. I've seen people,
Hmm.
especially when you think about like perfectionism, right? Perfectionism is not good for you in this space because nothing is going to be perfect, especially on the first iteration or version one. You have to be okay with the process being a little bit messy. And I tell my
Hmm.
students that, and I tell my daughter that. I say, it's okay to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. There's no such thing as perfect. But how often do we apply that to what we've created, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I think to remind ourselves of.
Yeah, that's something that we do as teachers all the time is like teaching resilience is it's fine to make a mistake. You learn from your mistakes. And I think that applies for us as well. When we're building out something, we build it, we see how it goes. It usually works out really well. But if it didn't work out the way you want it to, you just give it a prompt and change it again.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And there's always a way, and I've explained this again and again that, it's not a one shot thing. You have many opportunities to fix. Even now, apps that I've already taken to market, I'm still adding features, I'm still changing them, getting feedback and changing them. It is not, it's not even like publishing a book and putting it on a shelf. It's not going on a shelf, right? You can change it in real time. So that's the
Yeah.
beauty of it, is that
Mhm.
flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your story. That is so funny that you did it accidentally.
Yeah.
I'm
But it
curious though.
worked out to me really
Yeah.
well.
I
So
mean, that's
keep it
kind of
like that.
a happy accident.
Yeah, happy accident.
Yeah, it's great. So I love that you did that. Thanks for sharing it. And I think that there's so much more that we need to talk about.
Yeah.
We've got plans to have people on, different parents, different builders, teachers, all of that. And I appreciate all of you tuning in to listen to Classroom to Code.
Thank you guys.